And the next round of closing remarks go to Elizabeth May.
Thank you. And I also want to thank Maclean's and Rogers. This may, as we currently stand here on August 6th, be the only debate that involves all of us in an English language debate, and maybe we won't get a French language debate. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak directly to Canadians. And I want to say that it will be a shame if we don't have more debates, because as comprehensive as the questions were, we have not discussed social policy. We have not discussed how we respond to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We've not discussed how we must expand our Medicare system to include pharmacare, what we should do for young people who are facing crushing levels of student debts and their families. We have a lot of issues to discuss. Inequality. Everyone's talking about the middle class, and I support the concern. But the 86 wealthiest families in this country have the same combined wealth as the 11.4 million Canadians at the bottom. 1/3 of Canadians have the combined wealth as the top 86 families. We have to address this. So I ask you to consider the Green Party. I ask you to get to know us. We are not what you think. We're not a one-issue party. We're certainly not a one-person party. I'm enormously proud to be joined by Deputy Leader, Member of Parliament for Thunder Bay Superior North, Bruce Heyer, by Deputy Leader Danielle Green in Quebec. We have exemplary candidates from coast to coast to coast, people like Claire Martin in North Vancouver, people like Gord Miller, former Environment Commissioner for Ontario and Guelph. We're running strong candidates to be strong MPs because we want to work for you. We want to go to work for you in a more collaborative Parliament, one with greater respect, with civility in our discourse, willing to work across party lines to deliver what Canadians want. We believe in a Canada that works. We believe in a Canada that works together for all of us. Help us now. This is the election where we will get our country back.
Elizabeth May was interesting, wasn't she? She can tend to ramble at times, but she didn't tonight. She was quite focused and precise, and it was impossible not to want to listen to her, even though, really, I mean, factually, she doesn't really have the same political standing as the other people who were up there behind the podium.
You could tell that she was ready for this debate. She was ready to go at Harper, as she had in the past in 2008 when she took part in that debate, and then she was shut out in 2011. She wanted a chance to redeem herself with this one. I think she did, but she also was able to go after NDP leader Thomas Mulcair, which is where she's going to sway some voters.
In Vancouver, or Vancouver Island, sort of BC
yeah,
mostly.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the battlegrounds that the Greens are going to do battle with the NDP. They're going to try to take seats from them. She needed to go after Mulcair, and especially on the BC issue of the Kinder Morgan pipeline, she did.
I am here with Steve Laterante from Twitter Canada, and Canadians really speaking out online, not being shy whatsoever.
Yeah, if you look at this chart, you can really see the conversation pick up. And, you know, Twitter is good at a lot of things, but the one thing it's really, really great at is that live real-time conversation. So, you look at this, you see almost 200,000 tweets while the debate was happening. Those are people sending messages. They're talking to each other about what they thought was important. You know, all these things happening as they're watching, sitting on their couch, you know, seeing what somebody else is saying, commenting on what the leaders are saying. You know, it's powerful, it's quick, and it's happening right there. And you can see that huge inflection in activity.
You see the massive spikes here. Now, this is across Canada, of course.
And around the world. You know, we were looking at maps earlier where you can see people tweeting in Australia, in Germany, England. You know, you can be anywhere and watching it online, of course. So, you know, people that would have been restricted in how they watched it before can now all be part of that conversation.
Pretty incredible. Let's break it down a little bit further and see what's happening with these leaders, because going into the debate, Elizabeth May was really nowhere to be seen originally.
Yeah, and this is incredible when you look at this, because what you're seeing is, you know, she ended the debate tied with Trudeau for the share of conversations. That's people mentioning her name, essentially. And when she went into this debate, she was nowhere to be seen. And as she made her opening statement, all of a sudden, people were like, wait a minute, you know, let's talk about Elizabeth May a little bit more here.
That's right.
And you see where she ended up, actually very, very high. And, you know, she charted consistently through the night. She stayed there, basically trading support with Stephen Harper, where people talked less about him. Going in, that's all they talked about. She took some of that voice away from him. Interesting.
We're seeing this all happen in real time. Justin Trudeau, any surprises that he maintains sort of that level? A lot of people want to know about him.
Yeah, I think you're looking for big movements either way to see that sort of momentum. And it looks like he went in with the expectations where they were, and they just kind of stayed where they were. You know, no major moments, no ups or downs, nice and steady, which is probably okay. But I think if you're Elizabeth May, you're thinking that's a pretty good showing for a debate that you weren't sure about, and gives you good ammunition going into the others that you're not invited to, all of a sudden making a case that, hey, maybe I should be invited to these things.
Absolutely. And finally, let's look at it even closer, because when we look at some of those peak moments, where you see where the Green is, that's Elizabeth May. That's people actually tweeting about her and the Green Party.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you can see right there where she's like, all of a sudden she makes her opening statement and everybody is like, this is something we should be paying attention to. And then you can see with the other leaders all the way through the debate, different spikes. So the big Green spike you see at the end is her closing statement, of course. But the middle one is her talking about civility in Parliament. And isn't it interesting that, you know, people are sitting at home saying that's something they really care about when, you know, going into the debate, it was all economy, economy, economy.
Right.
But when you look at the big inflection points, it was the civility in Parliament, and the last big spikes at the end were about the ISIL mission, and that's again when people started talking a lot.
Well, you see that the red spike as well. Okay, so Justin Trudeau talking about security, and people seem to really respond to that.
Yeah, and what's interesting here, this is just people mentioning them too. So, you know, being mentioned doesn't always mean they're saying fantastic things about you. It could be, I can't believe somebody just said that, or, you know, those sorts of things as well. So it's just showing that there's this enthusiasm, and enthusiasm is not the right word, but a passion for what somebody's saying at that moment, that they feel that they need to talk about it as well.
What's interesting is that we're just going to go right to the back here. Actually, before we go to this, we're going to go to Roger Peterson, who is standing by. He's getting some Facebook reaction. We continue this social media reaction online. We're going to you, Raj.
All right, thanks very much, Melanie. Kevin Chan joining us from Facebook, head of public policy there. It's been an interesting night, Kevin. At the start of the night, we had a poll that said, who should be the leader, or who do we want to see as a prime minister?
That's right.
And Mulcair was at the front. And now we've got that second poll at the end of it. Where are we now?
And we see that the numbers have largely stayed the same. Mr. Mulcair has maintained his lead in the polls. But really the big difference here is Elizabeth May, who's really sort of jumped a bit in terms of the polls and sort of seems to have come out of the crowd and really stood out.
And it might be because of this. We had a Facebook moment. We'll explain a little more. But here's the Facebook moment when it spiked. The interest spiked in the debate.
With all due respect, Mr. Prime Minister, the only way you can take credit for the emissions drop, which only occurred in 2008 and 9, is the global financial crisis. That's the only thing that brought down our emissions. They would have gone up much more than they have now, if not for the action of Ontario in shutting down coal-fired power plants in British Columbia and bringing in a carbon tax. The cold, cruel reality is that under your watch, greenhouse gases have been rising, carbon pollution has been rising as soon as our economy began to recover in 2009. Straight up line.
And that was the spike in the conversations. First of all, quickly, Kevin, what is a spike when you're talking about that with these conversations?
So we're looking at the conversations of all Canadians on Facebook watching this debate. And the spike is really a moment when a lot of people are really engaging. So that's a moment in time during the debate where we really saw a spike in activity on Facebook.
And what do you think may have led to that with that quote there, that clip from her?
Yeah, I mean, there could be a lot of reasons. It could be the nature of what she's talking about. So in this case, she was talking about greenhouse gas emissions in Canada and how they had actually dropped and it coincided with the recession. So it could be the content. But it could also be, again, that Elizabeth May, as an individual, as a leader on stage, really stood out among the four leaders. So that's a really interesting insight. And we're getting this in real time from real conversations with Canadians across the country.